lead attorney, the Pitbull, Steve Sadow, has come out firing on all cylinders. Boy, he is heated. I don't think I've ever seen our guy, I call him the GOAT, Steve Sadow, Trump's lead attorney in the Fani Willis indictment that now is hanging by a thread. If you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, or maybe you've been in Tahiti for the past couple of weeks, Fani Willis recently got disqualified, the boot, hasta la pasta, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya, recently by the Georgia Supreme Court, saying that she is, in fact, now officially disqualified from the case. If you missed our stream in my video where I broke down the entire ruling and I broke down what's going to happen next, go check that out. But now Sadow just posted this today on X in response to all of the comments that have been coming out in response to this ruling. Check out this post right here on X. You can even see the date below, December 20th, earlier today. I've never seen him post something like this. He says, I have read many posts and reader comments regarding the Georgia Court of Appeals disqualifying DA Willis. I've read many, let me read this again. I've read many posts and reader comments. The Georgia Court of Appeals disqualified DA Willis because she is a black woman. This is utter nonsense. Race has nothing to do with it. Bottom line, her own egregious misconduct created a significant appearance of impropriety and wrongdoing. Wow. I've never, ever seen him responding like this, seemingly responding to a bunch of trolls, probably a bunch of two-faced, spineless hypocrites, probably a bunch of liberal white women who are just the absolute dregs of society. I've never heard, this is really confounding. He then follows up with this post. He says, and if anyone is interested in reading President's argument that was adopted by the Georgia Court of Appeals, read pages 45 through 49 of his opening brief. Don't mind if I do, Mr. Sadow, the GOAT. By the way, if you're watching, Steve, he's promised to be on my show. I'm going to hold you to that, Steve. You got to be on our show. He's going to be a guest. He always follows through with his word. I know he's going to do it, but that's not what I want to say. I want to say, if you're watching right now, Mr. Sadow, I just want to say that we appreciate you so, so much. Thank you for being a stalwart of professionalism, integrity, honor, and really showing the world that one can hone their craft, that one can carry themselves with dignity and do the right thing. So I just want to say I really, really appreciate you. But let's look at those pages, shall we? Okay. So this is Roman numeral 2. The court below erred in failing to disqualify both prosecutors upon finding the prosecution was encumbered by their significant, quote, appearance of impropriety, end quote. Once the trial court found that a significant appearance of impropriety infected the current structure of the prosecution team, the remedy was to disqualify each affected prosecutor and the entire DA's office. See Head v. State. You see, always citing examples, always backing it up with concrete case law. This is why precedents are so important. This is why the integrity of the entire criminal justice system, the entire justice system itself, is on the line, because it's beautifully, poetically linked through all of these preceding cases. And if you don't have any precedent to present as evidence, well, then it's difficult for lawyers to make their arguments to the judge, to the court. Whereas if there's new precedents that are just most egregious, then this can create a chain reaction of literally a tumor that can grow and grow in the entire justice system and maybe even see no end. It's just really, really important. Here, Willis and Wade were both affected prosecutors because they jointly participated in the specific conduct that impacted more than a mere nebulous public interests. This is so brilliant. This is why Trump won, because Sadow wrote this himself, and it is so powerful, impactful, conscientious, everything you want in a legal system and an attorney. The trial court's forced election remedy failed to redress the significant appearance of impropriety, quotes, because this remedy removed only a portion of the impropriety that created the appearance. Again, citing specific case law, this appearance was caused by quote unquote specific conduct that involved both Willis and Wade. Look at this. This is so good. Willis's decision to continue supervising and paying Wade while maintaining a romantic relationship. I mean, that's not even an appearance. That is impropriety. B, Willis's regular and loose exchange of money with Wade without any verifiable measure of reconciliation. Remember how she's like, well, I just give him cash. I don't do checks. Remember how she smugly, condescendingly, rudely treated Ashley Merchant in Cross and said, I don't do checks. I only do cash. And I'd give him cash. C, actions taken by both parties regarding Wade's divorce. For Wade, the submission of false interrogatories. For Willis, an emergency motion by non-party deponent for a protective order. Remember, she was having a relationship with a married man. On top of everything else, she was committing adultery. Just a little more to add fuel to the fire, more gas to the fire. D, Willis's legally improper speech made in Wade's defense. Entire testimony in the McAfee disqualification hearing where she stormed into court with her dress on backwards and her attitude on full display, defending Wade, defending everything about their relationship, and not really divulging any truthfulness or transparency whatsoever, even though that's what she claims that she's all about. And then E, Willis's potential untruthfulness, which that's all she is. She is comprised of 100% untruthfulness. This specific conduct violated rules of ethics, Fulton County Code of Ethics, Georgia laws governing the employment of assistant district attorneys, and manifested a constitutional breach of trust. Because this specific conduct involved Willis and Wade, the trial court found that the district attorney's prosecution, not only Wade, was encumbered. Consequently, both were affected prosecutors and due to be disqualified. Again, citing case law. Georgia courts regularly disqualify private lawyers for an appearance or possibility of a conflict in both criminal and civil cases, and he cites a bunch of case law. This concept makes sense in the context of existing Georgia case law. If private lawyers are disqualified from representing clients based on an appearance of impropriety, so too are prosecutors, and this is what I love this part right here, who are held to an even higher professional standard and as trustees are required by due process to remain disinterested. This is such an important point. Because imagine if Fani Willis was just a defense, I don't say just in any sort of diminishing connotation, but if she was a defense attorney, this would have been thrown out ages ago. Because why? Because it has been time and time again. Prosecutors, as McAfee conceded when Sadow brought this up in the disqualification hearing, are always held because they are beholden and representative of the public. They are elected officials, as if defense attorneys are not. They are elected by the people whom they're supposed to represent, which Fani Willis absolutely obliterated that oath in so many ways on so many levels during this entire rigmarole. She's supposed to be held to a higher standard, as all prosecutors are. If she really cared about justice, she would have said, you know what? After all of this has come out, I'm just going to do the right thing. But she doesn't know how to do the right thing. She doesn't know how to do the right thing. She should have removed herself. She should have recused herself. Let's just say it's all false. Let's say the relationship is false. The forfeiture funds are false. The lying is she didn't lie. Let's say all the egregious things that she did were not true. Okay? Just the mere fact that it's being, the fragrance of it, the perfume of it is lingering in the atmosphere is enough for her to remove herself, because that is the right thing to do. That's why this has nothing to do with race. This has absolutely zero to do with race when you absolutely take in the totality of every wrongdoing, error, foul mistake, egregious misconduct on multiple levels that she committed. Deviating from the head, the trial court's alternative remedy was premised upon its reading of several cases to permit the consideration of alternative solutions. But review of these cases showed that the trial court's extrapolation was not supported by the language or context of those decisions. For example, the trial court relied heavily for its alternative remedy in Blumenfeld. In Blumenfeld, the Supreme Court considered whether an attorney who formally represented a propounder of a will was per se disqualified due to his marriage to the caveator's present co-counsel. The court found that marriage standing alone created an appearance of impropriety, but did not require per se disqualification. Disqualification instead, this is beautifully written, again, citing ample evidence backing up his claims, was a remedy applied on a continuum. This creates ethos, credibility. But there, the appearance was based on status, not conduct. Here, Blumenfeld's continuum supported disqualification because the appearance of impropriety was based on attorney conduct, not status, and the appearance was not outweighed by the client's interest in choice of counsel. To the contrary, the sole choice of counsel interest was the defendant's joint choice not to continue with encumbered prosecutors, unlike the nebulous civil scenario hypothesized in Blumenfeld. The trial court expressly found that the appearance impacted more than a mere nebulous public interest. This significant appearance of impropriety was far more egregious than what he just cited, aka Blumenfeld. The excerpt quoted from the Second Circuit in Nyquist was taken out of context. In Nyquist, a declaratory action, the very sentence following the trial court's quote stated, quote, "This is particularly true, whereas in this case, the appearance of impropriety is not very clear." Needless to say, given the trial court found a significant appearance of impropriety, the impropriety here was very clear. Finally, the trial court sought to draw a flawed analogy to the screening procedure noted in Billings. Billings rejected a motion to disqualify the DA's office because the, quote, imputed disqualification rule was not meant to encompass governmental law offices. But the factual scenario in Billings, the defendant's former defense attorney becoming his prosecutor, explains why Billings did not disqualify the entire prosecutor's office. By contrast, there was no screening there, nor could there be. Willis and Wade ran the prosecution team together. The investigation forward was under their control. Billings did not authorize or suggest a forced election was appropriate under these circumstances. In sum, the trial court's forced election remedy, the misapplied the relevant law, and thus abused its discretion because it found that both Wade and Willis were affected by a significant appearance of impropriety. The trial court had to disqualify both. Under restage, withdrawal of Wade failed to cure the appearance of impropriety that Willis created through her own misconduct. There's nothing I love more than a well-articulated, presented, communicated argument with factual data, research, case law, evidence, and backup. I love it. It's everything our country stands for. It's everything that our forefathers and framers, the reason they even wrote a Declaration of Independence is the same exact premise here, to state their case. And they did it by example, not just by feelings, not just by, fleeting emotions, but by actual substantive, distinct details, specificities, examples, and experiences. And I just love this. It just makes me so giddy. All of you race-baiting race hustlers saying this has everything to do with race, it's a lame argument. It's a very lazy argument. There's never, ever, ever been a mention of race in this entire case. There's never, ever been a mention of skin color, ethnicity, background, what have you, by Trump, by any of the defense attorneys, Ashley Merchant, Steve Sadow, just to name a few. It has never been injected by anyone other than the race baiters and race hustlers. I want to share a quote from a legendary American, Booker T. Washington. which I think really sums up all of these comments that keep coming out that this was all about Fani Willis being black, but also even sums up the same thing that they said about Daniel Penny, the same thing that they said about Jordan Neely. Oh, if he was white, Daniel Penny would, remember with the BLM activists and all that? I think this is apt here and very appropriate. Booker T. Washington, quote, says, "There is a class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays." There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, if you had been paying attention to this case, paying attention to this indictment, paying attention to the disqualification hearing, both one and the follow-up with the appeal, a shadow of doubt that there's not a shred of evidence that could ever support that anything at all in this entire trial, entire debacle, entire case had a single iota to do with race. I'd love to get your thoughts. I'd love to get your comments. Let me know in the comments down below. I welcome all viewpoints, so just let me know. As long as you engage in critical thinking, in critical thought, and you're decent and polite. I don't do personal ad hominem attacks. Links, don't even share links. They go straight to spam. Make sure you sign up for our free newsletter. That's in the pinned comment, show notes, and description, so you never miss out on anything. Check out these videos coming up on the screen right here if you missed them. Also, tap my face right there to subscribe and follow. It's absolutely free. And as always, may God bless you, and may God bless the USA. I'll see you soon.